Now, The Catalyst with Christopher Dent.
This is The Catalyst, and I am Christopher Dent. The Catalyst is a podcast which highlights forward-thinking, community-minded people and organisations. Please like and follow us on Facebook at The Catalyst. If you'd like to share some feedback, please email us on thecatalyst@outlook.com.au. Today on the show we have a Rotary Club member, a member of the Department of Defence, a state netball representative and stroke survivor, Steve Hill. Welcome, Steve, to the program.
G'day, Chris. It's good to be on your podcast.
Thank you. How are you keeping busy at the moment during the pandemic?
Oh, well, plenty of time with all the sporting events for kids on the weekend has closed down. So my wife's got me busy doing paving and gardening and projects around the house that have been hanging around for years. So that's what I've been doing.
Okay, yes, I think everyone's got their long list to get through. Yeah, hopefully I don't mess this up. You were born in Peruka, South Australia in 1964. Mum and Dad. And
yeah, you did mess it up.
I did, so it's Paraka. Born in Paraka, South Australia in 1964. Mum and Dad, two younger sisters. Where did you attend school?
I went to school around the corner in the local primary school, Paraka Primary School, which is, well, now we've just celebrated over 100 years there. So,
Wow.
I went back to that reunion a couple of years ago. That was fantastic to see all the old faces. And then I went up to neighbouring suburb, Ingle Farm High School. So that was a new sort of open plan high school back in the olden days.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of an experiment, but I had a great time. Made lots of new friends, lots of old friends, and I still have them today. So which is great.
Oh, terrific. What sports did you participate in those early days?
Well, during primary school and in my early days, I had really, really bad asthma. So I wasn't allowed to participate in any sports. So even like the sports day at school, I just had to sit there and watch, which I found really frustrating.
Absolutely.
But eventually I got sort of over that, and I thought, well, I need to do something. And the doctors have said, well, if you do start a bit of sport, it could help with your lungs and your asthma. So I took up basketball. I didn't know anything about basketball.
Yep.
So I started playing basketball for Paraka, and I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, terrific. And you have played state netball. How did you actually get involved in netball in the original days, early in the days?
Well, as you mentioned, I had two younger sisters, and they played netball, and my mum was out there coaching. She was coaching in the local Paraka netball club,
Yep.
and as people do, my dad was on the sideline one day and abusing the umpires, which he probably shouldn't have done. But the umpire came over and gave him the whistle and said, "If you can do better, have a go." So he did. He went out and got his badge, and he worked his way right up to B grade, A grade state,
Yep.
and my mum did the same. And eventually, they wanted to form their own club, so we formed a family club called Aztecs, which was basically for the benefit of my sisters.
Yes.
So we had one or two women's teams, which was terrific.
Yep.
And the way that I got into it, I used to go out and watch, of course. There's not much else to do around the place. So I'd go out and watch, and because I played basketball and someone didn't turn up for training, "Oh, come on, Steve, come and fill in for wing attack." Oh, God, I hope my mates don't see me,
Yep.
But, I really enjoyed the game. It went on from there. We formed a men's competition.
Yep.
And it was probably early 80s. So
Yep.
it's been around that long, the men's netball competition.
Wow.
Back in and just learnt as we went along. We had organised trainings. My dad ran them. We got a couple of coaches in. It was really good fun. Really good fun. We were sort of bottom tier in the first level, and the thing that we wanted to do was win a grand final one day, and eventually we did.
Oh, that's terrific.
And it just spurs you on to play more,
Yeah. No, having your parents fully involved, I think it sort of molds you in a way that you don't realise until years later, which you probably found that out. And just that's fantastic. Not many people can hang their hat on putting a club to get together. So it is a very hard thing to do, which I've found out in the past.
Oh, yep.
Now with now just going a bit left of field here. In the earlier days, I've seen a few movies on the TV with counsellors on the movies in the States, and they're camp counsellors. You actually went to the States and you were a camp counsellor at one stage. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I thought I was working down with the Department of Defence down at Salisbury in South Australia, and I actually started out as a fitter and turner, so on the tools all the time. And I gradually moved into the mechanical drawing office. So sitting in front of a drawing board just drawing mechanical parts was really exciting stuff, you know. So I thought, one time I thought, well, I saw in the local paper they were advertising for guys to go over to America to be a camp counsellor, you know, and I've seen all the movies, so I thought, yeah, that'd be fun. So I sent my letter in, and I was a bit late for that year. I thought, I won't get in this year. But they sent me a letter straight back and said, look, if you want to go, get ready in a couple of weeks. So I thought, gee, I went and got my passport. First time I've been over, overseas like that. So, yeah, went over to America and went to a little place in the middle of Washington State, teaching kids. Basically, they wanted me to go over there and teach them how to shoot bow and arrows and BB guns.
Okay.
So, but get involved in it because I love camping and stuff like that. We'd go and camp out in the woods and have a great time and marshmallows and the kids were fantastic and the activities. It was full on for 10 weeks, but I travelled America afterwards and just had a ball, mate. I'd recommend anyone to do it.
That sounds like a great time. In the younger days in Paraka, did you have any other odd jobs when you were a young fella?
No, just the usual, just the newspaper round going and collecting money and stuff like that. But I mentioned we were pretty close family. My dad had a business that he ran with my mum as well, so he delivered chips and peanuts around to pubs and clubs and schools and anybody who wanted to buy along with, especially like netball clubs and things like that. So he'd rock up in his truck and all the kids would be chasing him through the schoolyard, you know, Mr. Chips. And he'd chuck out chips out the backyard, out the back door. He loved them. So I helped a lot with the running of the business. He ran it from home as well, so we used to have to restock every night and I'd help him out on his rounds. I'd take a day off of my work and go and do his work because it looked like fun. You know?
Oh, that's terrific. You were talking about the Department of Defence. How did you get involved in that originally?
Well, I finished school. I did my year 12. I passed by not very much, so I thought, well, what am I going to do with my life? Eventually, I thought I was going to work in a bank, but I ended up getting an apprenticeship with the Department of Defence in fitting and turning, which I knew nothing about. So they took me on, and the Department of Defence, they don't send their apprentices to TAFE. They used to run it all in-house. And they had some of the best teachers. You'd go in depth into every subject, you know, gear cutting and all that sort of stuff, how metals cut and turn and things. But it was just like going back to school and being in a classroom and a bit of hands-on practical stuff. And I'd get to go and work in different laboratories and workshops around defence. You know, they were working on rockets and all sorts of stuff. So it was really interesting stuff. I went over to the RAF base and actually got a flight in a CT4 trainer, which was an aerobatics trainer. So, you know, here I am, 19 years old, going up doing aerobatics. It was fantastic. A really good time. Yep. And I've still got friends from that time as well. So,
wow. Yeah. Oh, wow. With the Department of Defence, you ended up moving across to Melbourne at some stage. Was that through work?
Well, it really wasn't through work. I was pretty well ensconced in the mechanical drafting in Adelaide, but I met this girl at a wedding, you see, and yeah, she was actually living in Melbourne at the time. So I thought after a 2-year long distance relationship, I thought, well, one of us is going to move if this is going to go anywhere. So I moved to Melbourne, and well, I'm still married to her today, so that's a bit of a
Oh, well, we're speaking to Rotary Club member Steve Hill. You remember, speaking of Rotary Club, you're a member of the Oakley, Clayton, Huntingdale Rotary Club. How did you get involved in that?
Well, you mentioned at the start in your intro that I had a stroke. So in 2015, I was on the hockey field. I I'd played masters or veterans hockey, and I suffered a stroke. So in my recovery period, I was over at the local footy ground over the Dragons, and one of the guys over there asked me if I'd be interested. So I was still in my recovery period at that stage, and I thought, well, that's not a bad thing to do. Get involved with the community, get involved with, maybe young kids, the local schools, raise money for community projects. I thought, and while I'm recovering, it'll be a good thing to do.
Yep.
So I went along to a meeting, and I thought, well, okay. Another guy that we know went along as well. They wanted some younger members. They're all are in their 70s and 80s. So the guys in their early 50s, they're thinking as the spring chickens. So went along there, and I've been there ever since. So it's not bad. We run the Rotary market down at Oakley there on a Sunday morning. So when COVID's over, everybody should get down there and help support us. That'd be great.
Yes, no, that's terrific. Can you please explain Rotary just in a nutshell, and what have been your roles in Rotary Club?
Well, Rotary is a worldwide community type club that anyone can join. Anyone, doesn't matter what age. They do have Rotaractors and Rotary clubs for young kids at schools as well. So you can sort of go up through the ranks if you like, but anybody from any age can join Rotary. If you're community minded, if you want to help run an international project, like Rotary is the main instigators of eradicating polio in the world. So there's only probably 2 countries left in the world. I think it's Pakistan and Afghanistan that they're trying to get rid of polio, and they've done a really good job of eradicating that. They try to eliminate malaria through mosquitoes, by giving out mosquito nets and things like that overseas. Just generally looking after communities, whether it's local, international, those sort of projects. It can get really interesting.
And what roles have you had in the club?
Oh, what roles? Well, I was just a general member when I started. I was just trying to find my feet and how this thing works with Rotary. But they threw me into looking after the youth portfolio, which I found was fantastic. Because my 2 kids at the time, they were still at high school and primary school, so at Sacred Heart. So I thought, well, what better way to get involved than support your own kids as well as the community? So we had programs that Rotary would run with the schools, like by sending kids over to the Philippines to work with underprivileged people. They do all sorts of programs with young kids, like parliamentary programs for kids, sending kids up to National Youth Science Forums.
Yep.
Just generally looking after kids, raising money, scout groups, schools, all sorts of things. So it's really good. Really good to get involved.
No, true. That is terrific. Okay, guys, stay tuned. We'll be back after the break with our segment 5 questions, 1 word. Welcome back. We are talking to local Rotary Club member Steve Hill. Okay, Steve, we've got a segment on our show called 5 questions, 1 word. So I'll give you 5 questions. If we can have a 1-word answer, sometimes they're 2 words, it's all good. So 5 questions, 1 word. Number 1, what's your favourite beverage?
Oh, my favourite beverage? Well, that depends on the mood of the day, I think. Mornings, I love to have a mocha.
Yep.
With friends, I love to have a beer. Of course, Cooper's South Australian, the only Australian beer left.
Yeah.
But occasionally, spirits are fine. But just give me a nice coffee or a nice mocha in the morning.
Beautiful. Your first car?
My first car was a 1963 Leyland Mini.
Oh, wow.
I do have a bit of a story about that too. So when I was learning to drive, we managed to get this old Leyland Mini from my mum's uncle's estate, and the front seats were in disrepair, so they took them out. But I said, come on, I want to go for a drive. So what we did, we threw the beanbags in there and went up to Kmart. Had to drive around the car park in Kmart with the beanbags in there. It was fantastic. You wouldn't do it today.
No, that's the things we used to do. That's okay. Number 3, what irritates you the most?
Oh, I think sometimes people's attitudes, I think, irritate me the most. You know, it depends on whether you're working with people with different personalities, difficult personalities. That's really what irritates me.
Yeah. Okay. Now netball for you in one word.
Camaraderie, I think.
Oh yes. Yeah. Fully
Yeah.
agree with that. Yeah. Absolutely. Now last one, number 5. What's the worst household chore?
Oh, washing the dishes. I do it every night, mate. I do it every night.
Okay. Now, I assume with the COVID challenges at the moment with COVID-19 pandemic, what has been your most frustrating or hardest thing that you've had to overcome?
I think the most frustrating and hardest thing for me is the closing of all the borders, because coming from South Australia, I've still got all my family over there. My mum's still over there, my 2 sisters, and I've got a lot of lifelong friends that I regularly catch up with. But yeah, it's been a long time getting over the borders. I think that's one of the hardest things, because my mum's just gone into care too, and my sisters have been left to sell the house and clean up, tidy up, and I just can't get over and help them. That's really frustrating.
Yeah, that'd be tough. Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've got two children, Briony and Callan. You're married to Josie, as you spoke to about before. How did she get you involved with hockey?
Well, Josie's played hockey for a long time. She represented her school. She's from Clare in South Australia, so she represented her school up there. But she got back into it when she moved to Melbourne, and she was the inaugural women's captain at Melbourne High School when they first introduced women's teams there. So once I finished playing netball, which was around about 40, when I was about 39, 40, people stopped ringing me up to fill in, you know. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? So she said, well, why don't you play hockey? I thought, I've never played that in my life. And then they called for someone to just come out and stand on the ground. And of course, I've been there ever since.
Yeah,
for me, it's not my favourite sport,
Yep.
but it gets me out there running around, keeps me fit, which is and meeting new people as well. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's true. So a few years ago, you're a quite fit person and very healthy, and you do look after yourself. But a few years back, you did suffer a stroke during a hockey game.
Yeah, I did. It was really unexpected, you know, because like you said, I keep myself in fairly good condition to play all these sports that we do. But, I was out there and we just started the game. The umpire blew the whistle and I went to run after my opponent, and I found myself limping around the ground. And I thought, well, what's going on here? I haven't hurt my knee or I haven't hurt my back. I dropped my hockey stick and I thought, that's strange. I picked it up and I thought, oh, no. I tried it again. No, I thought I'd better go off. And I started feeling a bit numb in my leg. I couldn't lift my leg up. And then all of a sudden I couldn't lift my right arm up. And for some reason I must have remembered the ads that they had for stroke. You know, it was all down one side of my body. I started getting a bit of tingling in my jaw. And I said to one of my teammates on the sideline, mate, can you get my phone out? I think I'm having a stroke. You better call an ambulance. And he said, you sure? I said, do it, mate, do it. Yeah, the ambulance came onto the ground and picked me up and got me straight to the hospital. But it was a shock because you don't expect that sort of thing. There's no warning signs or anything like that. So, yeah, if everybody can remember that, the signs of stroke, you know, it's your face drooping or, you sort of, you slow your speech, you can't talk properly, you can't lift your arms. You got to get to hospital fast. So I think that's what,
absolutely.
That's what in the end.
I think, especially it's probably a good thing you're with a lot of other people, and instead of being in a car or something like that, where it could have been a little bit more life-threatening. Yeah. That is a life-changing experience. How difficult was the rehab, and how is your health today?
Well, after getting to hospital and through the first night, I was determined I was going to get better. I was determined. I couldn't walk properly. I couldn't eat properly. I couldn't do anything with my right hand. All the little things like, you know, brushing your teeth and writing and things like that. But I think with the determination, you just got to have that sort of up and go spirit. You know, you got to get back there. So I went to rehab every day down at Monash, and I asked them. I said, "Look, how many times can I come to this place?" And they said, "Well, you can come every day if you like, but they're only going to put me in once a week." I said, "Right, I'm there every day." And sometimes it was twice a day, and I do rehab at home, walking around and trying to get my motor coordination back to equilibrium with my left side. So, but these days, if I didn't mention it, a lot of people said they wouldn't even know. They wouldn't even know. I think I count myself as one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, I think you, like you said, you're very determined, and I think your hard work has paid off. And I didn't think it was it. Knowing you, nothing was going to slow you down. So surviving a stroke, how's your life changed?
It sort of brings things into perspective. You don't think these things will happen to you, but sometimes they do. It makes you appreciate things a bit more, appreciate your family, appreciate your kids, appreciate going out just to watch them play netball or like watch my son play baseball or something like that. So, yeah, it makes you appreciate life a bit better, I think.
Yeah, I think everyone should be doing that, I think. We're talking to local Rotary Club member Steve Hill. You love the game of netball and represented South Australia and Victoria at two different state championships. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, well, I started off, like I said previously, with playing men's netball, worked my way up through the competitions and tried out the state teams over in South Australia in, I reckon, probably the late 80s, early 90s. I was in a couple of teams there, so probably not the best teams. I was in a B grade team to start off with, and I moved up to A grade. Mm-hmm. But it affords you can go and travel. So I went to Sydney, I went to Tasmania, had a really good time in those state competitions, met a lot of the interstate players as well. We did start off going to club championships, which were held every year in Geelong. So we went to the first one of those, and then every year after that was fantastic. A really good friendship trip that was. It was fantastic. So, but once moving over to Melbourne, I didn't know anything about anywhere to play netball. Mm-hmm. So I did find my way eventually down to Oakley Indoor Recreation Centre, where they had the netball inside the net.
Yep.
Which I'd done a fair bit of that as well when I was in Adelaide, because we had a really good men's outdoor team, and one of the indoor guys who ran the complex came up and made us an offer to go and represent his stadium. So we actually went and did that, and that blitzed the competition in Adelaide, which was fantastic. So I did have a bit of experience in that. So that's playing indoor and outdoor, I think it really complements itself. The netball is a little bit different in both games. Of course, you like the pure game on the full court. There's more room to move and jump and throw the ball in from outside. But the indoor competition inside the net, it's a few different rules, bouncing off the nets and not touching the nets. But if you get a good team around you, it's fantastic. And I've been to championships for both of those, indoor and outdoor. So.
Now, was that for the Masters Games? If that was, can you explain that sort of that category of competition?
Yeah, I did move on to the Masters Games. I got asked to play there, so I had the Masters in Melbourne one year. So we actually took that out, which was fantastic. So it was really good to play against some of the other competition that we had.
Yeah, if you can just explain what the Masters are to the uninitiated.
Well, I think going by memory, I think it was over 35. I think it was, which because they wanted people still to be able to run around. You know enough Bulgaria. But it was over 35s, and you're playing against teams from around Australia and probably New Zealand and all sorts of stuff. So it was a really good competition. Get a really good team around you, it's fantastic.
So you had some good memories from that time?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
What other sports do your family participate in, your kids?
Well, I mentioned my daughter plays netball, and she has played a few other sports for school, so she's got into the softball and that. But my son plays baseball. He's right into baseball at the moment. when they were growing up, we gave them opportunities to play soccer, to play hockey, to play football, but they just eventually gravitated to the sports that interest them the most. So Carol's really into the baseball at the moment, so that's fantastic.
And Josie's a bit of a star hockey player here.
Yeah. Josie, she's been with the Melbourne High School for, I think it's coming up 20 years, I think it is.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was in their top team for a while.
It's a big part of life, I think, to make sure you keep out and keep moving and motivated. We're talking to local Rotary Club member Steve Hill. Now, we've got our next segment coming up. We've got our top three. I'm going to ask you your top three. We're going to ask Steve Hill his top three travel destinations. So your third best travel destination is?
Ooh, I'd say New Zealand. I've been to New Zealand a couple of times. Fantastic skiing and backpacking, travelling around, and scenery is just tremendous. Yeah.
Okay. Your number two travel destination.
It's surprising. I've been to Italy and Germany. They were both fantastic, but I really enjoyed my time in the US. The travel that I did afterwards was more like travelling in the outback.
Yeah. And Steve Hill's favourite travel destination.
Well, I've only been there twice, and the first time was 20 years ago. The second time was last year. We went to Vietnam, and that was terrific. I really enjoyed the people over there, trying to get to learn a bit of the language. Get the crystal waters and hiking and all that sort of stuff that you can do. You bike ride around towns and through rice paddies. It's a terrific destination. I loved it.
Yeah, it's an amazing place, absolutely amazing place to visit. I think if you haven't been there, you should put it on your list. You've been in heavy training for Oxfam this year, is that correct?
Yeah, that was correct. I did Oxfam 100 kilometre, 48-hour walk. I did it about 8 years ago. It absolutely exhausted me, but because we finished in 21 hours.
Wow.
And I thought, well, I'm never going to do that again. But of course, someone talked me into it this year. So, yeah, I've really been enjoying. I enjoyed training. We sort of ramped ourselves up from 10 kilometres to 20 kilometres. Our last training walk was a 50-kilometre walk, which was I found it wasn't too bad. If you ramped yourself up through the training, it was really good. But that was just before the COVID happened, and of course they called the whole thing off. So unfortunately, we didn't get to do the 100 kilometres, but maybe next year.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'd like to say a huge thank you to our guest. We wish him good luck and good health. To Rotary Club member of the Department of Defence, State Netball Representative and Stroke Survivor, Steve Hills. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks, Chris. Good luck with your podcast.
Thank you. This is The Catalyst, and I am Christopher Dent. The Catalyst is a podcast which highlights forward-thinking, community-minded people and organisations. Please like and follow us on Facebook at The Catalyst. If you'd like to share some feedback, if you have anyone you'd like us to interview, please email us on thecatalyst@outlook.com.au. This is The Catalyst. It is brought to you by CanDo Digital Production House. See you next time.